Venom, Let There Be Carnage, the sequel to the original Venom movie, is now out in theaters. I just saw it in the movie theater, drove right home. I wrote down some notes, and I'm going to get into my raw reaction and breakdown for this film. We're going to keep it spoiler-free, maybe hint at some spoilers towards the end of the video, but mostly spoiler-free. Here, let's go. What's up, everybody? It's Josh coming at you from Nerd Ventures Tower as always. And yeah, I just saw Venom, Let There Be Carnage. I have a lot of thoughts. Let me just say this right off the bat. I had a lot of fun with this movie. I really liked it. I think I might like it more than a lot of other people out there because it is truly a mixed bag when it comes to this movie. There is some stuff in there that I didn't like, and that maybe if my sensibilities or sort of thoughts about the film going into it were a little bit differently, it might have upset me a little bit more. I also want to talk about this weird thing that is going on with Venom, Let There Be Carnage. With regards to like the reviews and what people are saying about the movie, it's just been kind of an odd thing that I see happening out here, where it's almost like people are afraid to give Venom a bad score because, you know, I don't know. I think just things are different. The sensibilities are different. Maybe some people are being less hard on movies. And interestingly enough, Spider-Man 3 is trending right now. And when I came home, I saw this quote right here, which was from Sam Raimi about the original Spider-Man 3 and his experience with it. It's why Spider-Man 3 is trending. It says here, "I didn't know that I could face it again because it was so awful, having been the director of Spider-Man 3. The internet was getting revved up and people disliked that movie, and they sure let me know about it. So it was difficult to take back on." Sam Raimi talking about doing more Spider-Man movies, and just, it's kind of funny, right? So there's like this weird thing going on right now where I think, honestly, people, even critics, are sort of at this place where they're like, well, maybe we shouldn't go so hard on certain movies. And, you know, frankly, this is kind of where I'm at right now, depending on where it shakes out for the reviews of Venom 2 specifically. I almost feel like what's really happening here is they were way too hard on Venom 1, but they might end up being way too soft on Venom 2 for that same reason or something. Like, really, the film should both probably split the difference and maybe be at that like 50, 60, maybe high 60 tomato meter. We'll see where it all shakes out. But it is a mixed bag for me. But again, I absolutely loved it. I had a great time with it. Let me just talk about a lot of things that I really, really liked. Then I'll talk about some of the criticisms I have from the film. And then we'll talk about some of the stuff that's got me super hyped. And that's going to get into a little bit of spoiler territory there. So the opening sequence of the film I thought was brilliant. And, you know, not to be spoilery, but a lot of this has to do with Cletus Cassidy. I'll sort of leave it there. But it's really intriguing. And it's interesting what they did with that character, with the Shriek character, and the intro for the film. In the same way that Venom 1 starts out with a very strong opening credit sequence and beginning to the movie, I felt like Venom, Let There Be Carnage also has that really, really strong opening. But then something interesting happens where the movie, it's almost as if the movie was at a crossroads, and it could have gone one direction, and that would have been the more just fun, more campy, less serious direction. Let's call it like a Thor Ragnarok direction. And then it also had the option to go down this more serious, more artsy, taking itself a little bit more serious sort of Winter Soldier route. Now, both of those movies are very good, and I think both of them are better than Let There Be Carnage. But ultimately, what I'm talking about is that in the very, very beginning of the movie, there was this moment where I was like, whoa, are they going to go this hard? Is Venom, Let There Be Carnage going to be like friggin' impactful, like really meaningful as a movie instead of just a fun symbiote ride? But then very quickly the film reminds you that no, don't worry, we're not going to go that route. We're not going to take ourselves too seriously. We're just going to have fun with this story and with these characters. For me, that works. For me, that's the right decision. That's the good road to go down. But I can't help but be interested in what it would have felt like going down that other road. And I think some people out there might be in that sort of a situation where they're like, well, I think these movies are fun, but Venom, man, I wish they'd just take him a little bit further down that serious route. What if we took it a little bit more serious and we were a little more Winter Soldier than we were Ragnarok? I think that might be a feeling people have. The core of this film is really about Eddie Brock and Venom living together, going through conflict, and ultimately growing closer as a pair, right? And I don't think that's spoilery at all. That's, by the way, just the formula you would have in general for a sequel, but specifically with this character, these two characters sort of intertwined, it's something that's really, really necessary. And I will say that this functions. It is great. It's a lot of fun. It feels like a natural extension of where we leave the characters off in the first movie. And just in the sense of good writing for sequels and a series of films, hopefully, right? A bunch of movies to come with this character. It's doing its job. It's taking us in new directions, learning more about both characters, coming to more of an understanding as they work together. It's really, really good. So that's really the core of the movie. And from a sort of comedic standpoint, from an action standpoint, like, it's the core of it. And that was obviously the big strength for me for Venom 1. You know, there's a lot of weird whack stuff going on in Venom 1, but ultimately the core of those two characters together was great. It's got this buddy cop kind of a thing going on that is extended. It is changed, twisted, flipped around, and a lot of fun stuff is done with those two characters in the second movie. And I think that's what you need to do. There are a lot of sequels out there that either do the same story arc with characters or don't really know how to take a character forward, right? It's called like arcing out, and they definitely are not doing that with Venom and Eddie. It was really good in this film, and I think there's even more, and that's sort of teased at the end too. There's even more they can learn about each other. Venom, in particular, I believe, has some secrets. Cletus Cassidy. How's Cletus Cassidy? I know, as a big Carnage fan, I was really looking forward to the portrayal by Woody Harrelson, and I'm sure many fans out there are in that same boat. They're like, how is it, man? I love Carnage. I can't believe they're doing Carnage. Is it good? And I will tell you, he does a fantastic job as the character. The character's wild. The character's super crazy. A lot of fun Cletus type stuff going on with the character. And the Carnage character is cool as well. Kind of underdeveloped, in my opinion. We don't fully understand that character and that character's motivations fully. But I think there's some more mystery and stuff there maybe to come. But ultimately, Cassidy and Carnage, great together. They do a lot of fun, violent things. However, and I'll get into this more in the things that I wasn't crazy about, I think it could have been ultimately more violent. And there is one aspect of Cletus and Carnage that I did not like. The character of Shriek was fantastic. Way better than I thought she would be. A very fun character. Interesting what they do with that character, not only with Cletus, but with the symbiotes in general. It's kind of fun. I think you can kind of see where it's going if you just think about her power set and some of the weaknesses of the symbiote. It's dynamic. It's interesting. She adds a lot to the movie, and yet it really does feel natural, especially I think because of that opening sequence. But very cool what they did with that character. Now, let me talk about a couple things that I didn't like all that much, and then we'll get into some pseudo-spoilery, light spoilery stuff, things that got me really, really excited. I think the pacing of this movie is pretty bad. It's the worst part of the film, and unfortunately, I mean, pacing is a big deal for a movie. I'm sure many people will not be able to get past that and find it to be super problematic. The movie's short, and it feels short, which is actually two separate things. It is a short movie, but it also feels very short. It feels abrupt. There's really weird jumps seemingly in the plot that happen. It feels like there's a lot of this movie possibly missing. And I have a theory on that that's sort of pseudo spoilery, which we'll talk about at the end of the video. But it's not like the worst paced movie that I've ever seen. You know, it's better than, for instance, the Suicide Squad, the original one that was put in theaters. And look, that's still a fun ride. Like, people can just enjoy that, even though the editing and pacing is pretty whack, there are moments like that in Venom Let There Be Carnage where you're like, okay, I guess we're just doing this now and I'm just going to accept it. And that's probably the biggest problem with the movie. But my personal biggest problem with the movie has to do with Carnage. And I know I just told you I really liked Carnage, and I do. He looks fantastic. The visual effects, by the way, mind-blowing, mind-blowingly good. But the problem for me is that we don't see enough violence from Carnage. Technically speaking, Cletus Cassidy does more crazy violent stuff than even Carnage does. And a lot of the fights and him, killing people or harming people, maiming people or doing whatever, it's not nearly violent enough for me, knowing the character from the comic books. He's just hitting people around, throwing people into walls. It feels sort of light, pulled back. And with Carnage specifically, I mean, his name is Carnage, dude. Like, you want more blood. There was a serious lack of blood in this movie. All right, so now let's get into some stuff that it has me hyped, and this is kind of spoiler. It's light spoiler, guys. I'm not going to tell you what the post-credit scene is. I'm not going to get into all the details of all that. I'm not going to tell you how the movie ends exactly. So you're safe on that front. But I think many people realize there's something going on with Marvel and Sony, and it does seem like these characters in some way are going to cross over. That's not even fully clear in this movie, just to be real with you. But that's kind of where we think it is headed. And I have this theory that maybe it was Disney or Marvel that perhaps, and we don't know this, but perhaps, maybe just made Andy Serkis and the team over there feel like they should pull back, or maybe even said themselves like, hey, make this a little less bloody and violent, because again, it's just so short and there's a lack of violence. It feels like maybe that was a mandate or something where Tom Hardy, because Tom Hardy is super involved in this movie, right? Like super involved at the producer level. Big deal for him. And if he is doing stuff with Marvel moving forward, that's a massive deal for him. And so to secure that bag and to secure that dream, it's possible even just he on his own volition was like, nah, we're gonna change this and make it a little bit more acceptable to a wider audience. So it's possible that that's happening. It would be a shame if that was true, because again, I wanted more violence. But I will say this, there is exciting stuff moving forward here. There's a lot of fun possibilities of where we go from here. Interesting things that are set up, and we're not sure exactly how that will tie together. And there's even some really cool lore that we're starting to learn about Venom and the symbiotes that I think Sony could have a lot of fun with in the future. And it may well equip Eddie Brock and Venom to have a knowledge base and some skills that'll come in handy if we end up going to some crazy crossover Battle World, Secret Wars, Exiles, universe ending, multiverse, Spider-Verse thing. I mean, we don't know where it's all heading, but that aspect of it is really, really fun. And I think Venom, I'm reminded of like Hugh Jackman, right? And the Hugh Jackman Wolverine movies. Not all of those are bangers, and there's a few that are really, really bad, especially like X-Men movies, right? But ultimately, he learns more about the character. He becomes better and better over time, and we ultimately arrive at frickin' Logan, and we get a lot of awesome performances along the way. And I think it's possible that what Sony is doing with Venom here, this one is definitely better than the first one, in my opinion, and I think it could get even better moving forward. And when you start to really think about some of the pieces that are being pulled together, man, it's quite exciting, because, I'd bring Andy Serkis back. I felt like he did a great job, and with the motion capture stuff specifically, he's brilliant with it. It looked awesome. So I think we probably will get a Venom 3, and I'm excited to see where that goes. I think there's a high possibility of some Marvel goodness happening, and that is just really, really exciting stuff. So I think the movie for me, while it's a mixed bag, ultimately I had a great time with it, and it just makes you so excited for where we could go from here, guys. So there you have it. Those are my thoughts for Venom Let There Be Carnage. Let me know what you thought about the movie. I'll be doing a spoiler video, probably a spoiler stream about the film soon, speculating about what is to come. So subscribe to this channel if you want to see more of our videos pop up in your recommend. If you liked this video, if you liked it, and go check out our live streaming channel, man. We do a ton of fun live streams throughout the week, talking about different nerdy things. I think you'll have a good time over there. As I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.